With live streams come the fun of seeing your friends, family, and even favorite creators live. Along with that comes the chance to see the inner workings of their lives from the comfort of your own home on your own time. More often than Facebook would like to admit, though, people are hit with seeing content that's a lot more than they bargained for. When a person's life ends on a live stream or a video, you would think that it would go against the guidelines for any major social media website and would be taken down immediately, but that's not always the case. Not only are people able to see the tragedy play out in real time, it gets immortalized as it's shared all over the internet from that point onwards. Since social media has exploded in popularity over the last decade, many people have come to lose their lives in front of a live audience. Some of the time these deaths are self-inflicted, but many other times they are merely the result of happenstance, accidents, and sometimes even murder. Facebook Live quickly became a fast and easy way for people to live stream without a whole lot of setup, so it quickly became the go-to for people who wanted to stream while on the go. This would quickly become a problem that completely went out of control, and people continued to upload their own deaths on the platform, and for a while, next to nothing was done to prevent it, intervene, or even remove the content. Kayana Hearnen. Kayana Hearnen was a young, 25-year-old mother living in Little Rock, Arkansas, who would often stream her mother-related content while going about her daily life on Facebook. The problem is, little known to most people, Kayana had a lot of medical problems that were taking a toll on her. One fateful day, she was live streaming while holding her 1-year-old son. She was walking around, talking about how much she wanted to go back to school and get a degree. Suddenly, she started rubbing her face and eyes as thousands of her followers watched in bewilderment. She began to shake her head back and forth. She then fell backwards to the ground, gasping for air. Unable to even hold the phone anymore, her son picked it up and began to play with it as she gasped for air, continuing until the gasps were no longer audible. The stream continued in this manner for another 30 minutes. The phone was put flat on the ground, leaving the audience with nothing but a black screen and the sound of a baby crying. That is, until Kayana's friend came over and found her lying on the ground unresponsive. She called 911 and ended the video. Kayana's father, upon hearing about what had happened, was furious that none of the people watching her stream had called 911 for help. Some of her friends had even been watching, and they had been aware that she suffered from a thyroid condition. This was what ultimately led to her heart failure. The video was left up on Facebook for hours, possibly even days, according to some sources, before finally being removed. Brooke Miranda Hughes and Chamia Morrison Toomey. One early morning in December of 2016, Brooke Miranda Hughes, age 18, was driving along Interstate 380 in Pennsylvania while streaming on Facebook Live. She, along with her passenger and friend, Chamia Morrison Toomey, were driving slowly in the right lane of traffic. Chamia was heard asking, "Are you going live?" when the stream started. Quickly, before Brooke could even answer, the video was interrupted with flashing lights and the ear-piercing screech of car tires before the feed went black. Shortly after the live stream had started, a tractor-trailer had hit their vehicle. The video continued for 7 more minutes, only showing a black screen until eventually a man can be heard speaking. He picked the phone up and showed his face for a brief moment before cutting the feed. The accident and resulting fire were so devastating that the responders found it difficult to determine the original condition of the car. The 2 women inside were burned beyond recognition, unable to be identified for quite some time. The driver of the tractor-trailer was found to be at fault. He was driving on a spare tire that wasn't well suited for slippery winter conditions. Even so, he was completely uninjured. The video was viewed a total of at least 7,000 times before it was finally removed. The police were able to get a copy themselves for their own investigation before that happened. Antonio Perkins. In June of 2016, Antonio Perkins, a 28-year-old man, was in the west side of Chicago, partying with friends and drinking from a plastic bottle while looking around, not really doing much in particular. He watched as a car drove by, only to see that same car come back around. Shortly after, viewers were met with the sound of a flurry of gunshots. The camera then dropped to the ground, only to be picked up shortly after and show the image of a car driving away. The phone then fell once again, landing in blood-soaked grass. While the feed went dark, people could be heard in the background panicking and shouting for an ambulance. Investigators got a hold of the Facebook Live video and immediately suspected that the attack was gang-related. Antonio was taken to the Mount Sinai Hospital, but he was pronounced dead shortly after. His assailant is unknown. Initially, it was determined that the death video did not violate Facebook guidelines, and it was left up. Within a short time frame, it was viewed more than 250,000 times and shared over 6,000 times. Eventually, it was removed, but only after being seen by 250,000 people. Anthony Sanford II. In December of 2016, a 27-year-old man named Anthony Sanford II was at a dinner party in Cleveland, Ohio. The party was being streamed on Facebook Live. Within the video, a man named Stephen Lianis and another friend were sitting around looking at a gun and playing around with it when Anthony showed up at around 9:50 p.m. In the video, Stephen could be heard reassuring Anthony that the gun was unloaded. To further convince the viewers, he held up a few bullets to the camera, neglecting to realize that this didn't mean that there weren't more in the gun by any means. He even put the gun in his own mouth to demonstrate. Stephen picked up the gun, put it down to his side, and pulled the trigger. A bullet fired out of the gun and hit Anthony in the abdomen. The video abruptly ended as 911 was called and Anthony was rushed out to the hospital. It was too late, though. He passed away from his fatal injuries shortly after. One of the viewers of the Facebook livestream was able to give the link to the investigators. Stephen claimed that he was innocent, saying that it was nothing but an accident. His lawyer spoke on his behalf, saying that he was very sorry for what had happened. Even so, Stephen was ultimately charged and hit with a 5-year prison sentence. Brian Sugar Ray Fields. Back in Chicago in March of 2016, a 31-year-old man named Brian Fields, who went by the name Sugar Ray, was streaming a video on Facebook Live as he was hanging out in the West Englewood neighborhood. He was simply sitting around when a suspicious man approached the camera. This man then pulled out a gun and shot in his direction. The video continued as the gunman came into frame, shooting more and more. Sugar Ray was shot in the back, the stomach, the legs, and the jaw while his viewers watched. Amazingly, he survived all of these shots. He suffered horrible damage, but he eventually came to make a recovery. While he managed to survive this attack on livestream, he wouldn't remain lucky for so long. Only a short time after recovering, he was sitting in his car at a gas station in Chicago with his friend, Chiquita Ford, when, yet again, an unknown gunman approached the car and shot them both, this time succeeding in killing them. Both of the two were pronounced dead then and there. To this day, nobody has been arrested for either of the attacks on Sugar Ray. It still hasn't been made exactly clear why he was targeted twice. J. Bodie. J. Bodie was a man who was slowly building his acting career, getting a role in some 2016 films, while working as an exotic dancer at a venue in Hollywood called Hollywood Men, where he performed under the name of Houston. While it seemed that Jay was on the path to achieving his dreams of being an actor, even having landed roles already, not all was going well behind the scenes. Jay was dealing with some trouble that not too many people knew about just quite yet, and one morning at 5:30 a.m. he decided to make one final live stream on Facebook. He told his viewers, frankly, that he was about to end his own life. This occurred just days after he had been arrested in Santa Clarita on suspicion of sexual assault. He had been released a day prior upon posting his $100,000 bail, but it seems that he felt his career was as good as over. One of his family members who lived far away from him was watching the stream and called the Los Angeles Police Department. The police called him and tried to reach out to him, but it was already too late. He was gone. Viewers watching the live stream weren't sure if it was real or some kind of performance, given that he was an actor. Eventually, they expressed their shock and sadness upon hearing that it was indeed real. The video was left up on Facebook for a while, being seen by many before it was ultimately removed. Pusha T. In October of 2014, a 29-year-old pro gamer named Terrence Moore, better known by his screen name Pusha T, was a big figure within California's Killer Instinct community, a game that was popular at the time. Pusha T tweeted that he was heading out to the Level Up's The Run Back show that fateful day. It was a weekly series that was all set to be streamed live. Pusha T was very excited to be able to participate in the Super Arcade tournament. Pusha T finished his first match of Killer Instinct while on stream at the Super Arcade venue, being in good spirits. He stood up and began to walk off camera to await the next match. Unexpectedly, though, he collapsed shortly after. He hit the ground as everyone around him began to shout for someone to call an ambulance. Shortly after, the stream was shut down. Pusha T was taken to the nearest hospital, but doctors were unable to revive him. It appeared that he had had a sudden heart attack soon after his match finished. Arman Schmeider. Arman Schmeider was a 28-year-old Italian adrenaline junkie who took a liking towards being a wingsuit pilot. He was living with his partner and his young son, living the good life, when he decided to go out and film some of his wingsuit stunts in August of 2016. He was in the Couleur de Lens, a mountainous area in Chamois in the French Alps, when he set up his camera to go live on Facebook and stream his stunts. He told his fans on Facebook, "Today, you fly with me." He dove off the mountain in Kandersteg, Switzerland shortly after. However, within a few seconds, viewers heard the sound of a scream followed by a loud thud. Viewers watching the stream reacted in sheer horror as they knew what must have happened. Arman had indeed fell to his death from the mountain. The police were called to the scene. They were able to find his body near the bottom of the mountain. Tyrell Smith. Tyrell Smith was streaming on Facebook Live one day, talking to his viewers, when suddenly he seemed to get into an argument with someone posting in the chat. The exchange got more and more heated as the commenter made very real threats and Tyrell became visibly frustrated. Those in the chat never thought it would go beyond that. That is, until someone drove up to Tyrell's house while he was still talking on stream. Tyrell started speaking to the driver, angrily, when he was heard saying, "Now you're on here saying you're riding around with 60 shots. I don't care if you have 100 shots, bro." The car pulled closer. Tyrell, seeing the severity of the situation, said, "Okay, we got action. Only seconds later, a flurry of bullets were fired and Tyrell was dead on the ground. While the shooting wasn't visible on camera, it was very audible. A neighbor could be heard screaming that someone had just been shot, panicking and calling 911. Police deputies pulled up to the home and found Tyrell suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He couldn't be saved, dying shortly thereafter at the hospital. The video was viewed over 37,000 times before Facebook finally got up and took the video down. For a while, the person who fired the shots was nowhere to be found. Luckily, it wasn't long before 3 people who were involved were captured and taken into police custody. Martita Bonner and Jarmiah Castian were arraigned on charges of conspiracy to commit open murder. They were each held on $1 million bonds. A third person, a 24-year-old man who went unnamed, was arrested and taken into police custody as well on unstated charges. Robert Godwin Sr. Easter Sunday of 2017, the day started out like any other. That was until around 2 p.m. when a man named Robert Godwin was walking around the neighborhood, carrying a large bag and collecting cans. Another man named Steve Stevens, not even joking, was filming himself on his camera from his car. He exited the vehicle and approached Robert, asking him to say Joy Lane, the name of Steve's girlfriend. He then said, "She's the reason this is about to happen to you," before pulling up a gun and shooting Robert down to the ground. While it was originally reported that this video was live-streamed, it was actually filmed beforehand and then simply uploaded to Facebook right after. Adding to his little repertoire of crime, Steve decided to take credit for 13 other murders in his own comment section. The sad thing is, the police later confirmed that Robert had no connection whatsoever to Joy Lane. It seemed that Steve had actually picked him completely at random, putting on a show for the cameras. Steve's own mom later told the police that he was shooting at people simply because he was mad at his girlfriend. While one may have been led to believe that Robert was having an affair with Joy by watching the video, that wasn't the case at all. Steve only shot Robert to take out his frustrations with his own girlfriend. Soon after, a massive manhunt took place as the police tried to track Steve down. Luckily, the man posted to social media non-stop, filmed his own crime, and uploaded his face all over the place. In fact, detectives were able to make contact with him directly. He then cut that contact, but they were hot on his trail. It was only a matter of days before the police issued a $50,000 reward for any information leading to his arrest. One day after that, Steve pulled up into a McDonald's drive-thru to get some lunch about 100 miles from the crime scene. Given that his face had been plastered all over the place, it wasn't too long before an employee recognized him from the news reports. The employees of the store called the police and stalled for time by making Steve wait on his order, saying that his fries weren't done. Classic McDonald's. Steve, feeling that something was up, bailed before he got his fries. However, the police had a pretty good idea of the area he would be in thanks to the tips. They found his car and made chase all throughout town. Eventually, they made a tactical maneuver to force Steve to stop his car. But as the police approached the car, Steve pulled out a gun and shot himself in the head. Erdogan Sarin. Erdogan was a 22-year-old man who was not doing well. He had been struggling with his mental health for a while, and he felt that nobody around him cared in the slightest. He posted a picture of himself with his sister and niece, simply writing, "Feeling broken," one afternoon. It was about 12 hours later that he would start up a Facebook live stream. He was sitting on camera, shirtless, and speaking to his audience. He spoke out to his viewers, saying, "No one believed when I said I will kill myself, so watch this." He told them that he was doing this because his girlfriend breaking up with him was the last straw for him. One person in the chat was trying to get him to stop, typing comments like, "Don't do it for the love of God," but he wasn't paying attention. Erdogan pulled a shotgun up to his head, attempting to shoot it. It failed to fire, so Erdogan pulled it down and tried again. He readjusted the camera with one hand while holding the gun in the other. He then tried one more time, this time carrying out his intention. The camera feed suddenly went black upon the sound of the gunshot ringing out. His relatives, hearing the shot, came into his room and discovered his body. The video stayed up on Facebook for quite some time, amassing over 12,000 comments and 4,000 shares before it was finally taken down. Serena McKay. Serena McKay, a 19-year-old young woman, was on the Sagking First Nation Reserve northeast of Winnipeg, Canada, when she met a terrible fate. Two girls who went to high school together with her, aged 16 and 17, attacked her and started to pummel her with punches and kicks. They started up a video on Facebook, filming their savage attack. At one point, one of the girls shouted, "I don't want to fucking see her alive," before the attack increased in intensity. The footage showed Serena being beaten bloody, falling to the ground, only to be taunted and beaten even further. She was heard yelling, "I'm so sorry," to the attackers, but it didn't do anything to stop them. They moved to stomping on her head until she stopped resisting, lying there motionless. Even after that, they continued to beat her even more. One of the girls was heard yelling to her, "If you send anyone after me, I will kill you. I will fucking kill you myself." Shortly after, the younger of the two girls posted a picture to Snapchat, covered in blood, smiling at the camera, labeled, "Just chilling." They left Serena there to die at the scene, noting that she was bleeding from her nose profusely. That night, unable to move, she died from hypothermia. The live feed remained on Facebook to be viewed again and again, which it was, and it stayed up for about 4 hours. Someone was able to notify the police and supply them with the video before it was removed, kickstarting their investigation. They began to look into the video to see whether it really did show the death on camera. The two attackers in the case were arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The younger girl has since been released from prison and walks free today. She has expressed remorse for what she did. The older, though, remains in prison as she has not expressed any sort of guilt. She blames alcohol for the incident, saying, "A couple drinks turned into a full weekend of binge drinking. Waking up on a Monday and finding out you were involved in a murder was so shocking. I couldn't remember much of that weekend, but watching a video a friend showed me was brutal. I sat back and denied it all because I'm not a violent person." Jared McLemore. In probably the strangest case on this list, we have the final act of Jared McLemore in Memphis, Tennessee. Jared was a musician that had a troubled history with his girlfriend Alyssa, to say the least. He had a long track record of domestic abuse, with it having occurred on numerous occasions. He had faced charges and was put on probation for what he had done, ordered to undergo mental health treatment after he had tried to kill her. One night, Jared started up a video on Facebook Live in which he was sitting shirtless on camera, attempting to pour some sort of liquid all over himself. That liquid was kerosene. He approached Alyssa at a bar, rubbing her hand on his chest and telling her goodbye. She realized that he was soaked in some sort of odd substance, and seeing red flags immediately took off running, urging everyone around her to do the same. Jared lit himself on fire right there, chasing after Alyssa toward the bar. She got inside along with a few other panicked patrons and held the door shut. Engulfed in flames, he screamed as he slammed himself up against the door. Unable to stand the heat from the door, Alyssa ran once again. Jared made his way into the bar. Then one man on the sidelines named Paul Garner ran over and tackled Jared in an attempt to stop his wild attack. The ambulance arrived on the scene shortly after. Jared, despite being very badly burned, was taken to the hospital and expected to survive. He didn't, however, succumbing to his injuries not too long after. The Facebook Live video was up for 6 hours and shared thousands of times before it was finally taken down. Wuisan Wong Tay of Thailand. A man in Thailand named Wuisan was feeling neglected by his wife after fighting with her non-stop ever since the birth of their 11-month-old daughter. He decided to take his revenge on her in one of the most twisted ways imaginable. He took his daughter to an abandoned old hotel in the Phuket province and started up a Facebook Live feed. Making his broadcast one Monday evening, he set up some ropes in the rafters of the hotel. He then proceeded to hang both himself and his young daughter live on camera. The mother watched the entire stream, helpless to interact with them. It wasn't long before the police were notified and made their way out to the hotel, but by now it was far too late. There was nothing they could do. It goes without saying that the mother was devastated. Unlike other cases on this list, Facebook actually took the time to remove the video the day after it went live. It was the outrage caused by this case in particular that actually led them to consider hiring staff to review these sorts of videos and to update their community guidelines to crack down on this sort of content, if you can call it that. Facebook went on to announce that they would be hiring a further 3,000 employees full-time just to screen content in case these types of videos were to ever arise. However, those critical of the company have said that this is a pretty pathetically low amount of employees to deal with something that is becoming such a huge problem. The problem is especially out of control when you consider not only these types of videos, but all of the other disgusting, vile content that tends to pop up on the platform as well. Facebook is looking into AI technology to find a way to better mine text, images, and video to detect sensitive content such as the cases in today's video. This could reduce the number of human employees required to do the job. But seeing AI's track record for detecting content that is actually problematic on some other platforms, it isn't likely that we will be seeing a solid solution to the problem anytime soon. Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you want, go ahead and follow me on social media. If anything were to ever happen to this channel, that would probably be the only way you'd ever hear about it. By the way, all videos on this channel are now up on all the popular podcasting platforms as well, so feel free to check them out on there if you like. I also really appreciate when people follow me on Patreon. There you can get videos early, ad-free, and uncensored, and channel memberships are back up as well, where you can get all the same benefits. So, once again, this has been your host Kyle, thank you, and good night.